Hello and a very warm welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I want to talk about the real estate market in Riga, the capital of Latvia. And I'm going to give you 12 reasons why it could be a good place to put your money in the real estate market. I'll also give you 3 disadvantages, one of which I think could be a deal breaker, and my conclusion at the end. So let's get straight down to it. Number 1, low prices. So in Riga, on average, prices are under €1,000 per square meter, although this does include the old communist buildings. Now, new apartments in residential areas cost approximately between €1,900 and €2,100 per square meter. In the city centre and Old Town, they cost a lot more. So new apartments will cost between at least €2,000 to €4,000 per square meter. And at the very, very high end, they can actually go to as much as €6,000 to €7,000 per square meter. Number 2, I want to talk about the stagnant prices in Riga. So prices in 2020 only increased by around 2%, and even this year in 2021 they haven't gone up by a hell of a lot, although in the last 2 or 3 months the market has started to pick up again, so it could actually be a buying opportunity. Number 3, I want to talk about the yields. Now the yields are not great, they're around 4% gross. But if you do buy in the Old Town a smaller apartment, you could get up to about 6%, at a stretch, 6% gross. And that's not too bad as a yield. Number 4, I want to talk about the solid GDP growth from 2015 to 2019. This ranged from 2% to 4%, which is not bad. And even in 2020, during the pandemic, GDP in Latvia only dropped by 3.5%, which is much better than most Western European countries. Number 5, Latvia is actually pro-landlord, in contrast to countries like Estonia and a lot of Western European countries. Number 6, I actually want to talk about something which I don't talk about maybe enough, is salary increases in countries. So in Latvia, this has been spectacular. And it has ranged from in the period 2015 to 2019, it has ranged from 4.9% to 9.8%. Now, if you consider in the same period inflation, this has only ranged from 0.2% to 2.9%. So we're talking about some real excellent wage growth. And this shows Latvia is really getting richer, and this is good for the real estate market. So just to put that into context, in 2015, the average net salary in Latvia was €603 net per month. But in 2020, this had grown to €844 net per month. So you see, that's a magnificent increase. Number 7, I just want to quickly say Latvia is a very stable country. It's a long-standing member of the EU, Schengen and NATO. Plus it has adopted the euro as its currency. I think it was in 2014. Number 8, I want to talk about one of my favourite hobby horses, which is the total government debt to GDP. Now in 2019 in Latvia it was 37%, but by 2020 it had gone up to 43.5%, of course because of the pandemic. And by the end of this year it is expected to go up to 50%. And it's not bad, but it's not as good as Estonia, Bulgaria, which have the lowest in the whole of the EU. But it's still much better than most Western European countries. Number 9, Latvia has a residence by investment program. So when you invest €250,000 in Latvian real estate, you can get residency. And there's lots of actually Russians who've done this, lots of people from different parts of Asia that have done this as well. Number 10, I want to talk about the low buy-sell costs. So these are quite exceptional, except for new builds. Now, new builds, you will have to pay an extra 21% VAT. But if you don't go for a new build, the costs are low. So typically the buyer will pay 2% stamp duty, notary registration fees of 0.5%, and the seller pays the realtor or the estate agent, and this can vary between 2 to 5%. So if you play your cards right, your buy-sell costs could be as low as 4.5%, and that really is exceptional. Number 11, let's talk about briefly taxes. Now, I think taxes here, they're not the best, but they're not too bad. So you've got no wealth tax, no inheritance tax, or local municipal taxes. Capital gains tax on profits from your real estate apartment will be 20%. And rental income tax is tiered. So there's two ways here. You can either have it tiered from 20% to 31%. So up until €20,004 a year, you will pay 20%. Anything from €20,004 to €62,800, you'll pay 23%. And above €62,800, which I don't believe many of you will get to that, it'll be 31%. But do remember, there's some deductions, and fairly good deductions allowed. You can also go for a second option, which many of you may go for, which is 10%, but with no deductions. So rental income tax 10%, but with no deductions, or the other alternative I gave you. Now, property taxes are higher than in the other Baltic countries, namely Lithuania and Estonia, but they're still a lot lower than the US and many Western European countries. And 12, I just want to talk about other things very briefly. So tourist numbers are very, very good. And they're growing. So they've almost doubled between the period 2009 to 2019 in Latvia. And I also want to say the process of buying real estate in Latvia is very straightforward. It's fully regulated, and there's hardly any scams. And the period is actually short as well. You can usually get it done within 2, 3, 4 weeks, unlike a country like the UK, when sometimes it can actually take months to actually go from start to finish in buying the property. Now, I want to talk about 3 disadvantages, and one of which I think could actually be a deal breaker. And this is the population. Now, unfortunately, the population of Riga is actually going down at quite a rate. So in 2000, it was 762,000 people that lived in Riga. But by 2020, this had gone down to 631,000. And by 2035, it is expected to drop even further to 585,000. Now, of course, that's not very good for the real estate market. And it is in contrast to the other Baltic state capitals, so Tallinn and Vilnius, which are actually growing in population and are expected to grow further, albeit by not very much, but at least the population in those two capitals is growing. And even Sofia and Varna in Bulgaria, the populations have been growing and are expected to be fairly steady over the next 10 to 15 years. But unfortunately, this is not the case in Riga. So I actually think this is the main disadvantage. Number 2, there are a lot of foreign buyers. So I've read reports that foreign buyers make up 70% of purchases in Riga, and this is extremely high. I actually like it when there's a good local population buying. So let's say if Latvia and Riga become less popular with foreign buyers, this could depress the market there as well. And finally, number 3, unemployment in Latvia is quite high at around 8%. Although, to be fair, it was higher in 2015. It was 10%. So those are 3 reasons perhaps not to invest. So if you do decide to buy in Riga, where should you buy and what should you buy? Well, I think you should go for a resale apartment and not a new one, not least because of that 21% VAT. And I think if you have the budget, just go for the old town where you've got excellent. I'd go perhaps for a 1-bedroom in the old town, where you can get some good yields, long-term yields, or do a good Airbnb. If not, you can go for the centre, which is almost as good. It's good for long-term. Actually, it's actually very good for long-term renting to locals as well, to local professionals. Or perhaps on a slightly lower budget, go for Kipsala, where You can get some good rental yields. There's a lot of student population there, so perhaps there could be a good place to invest. But where I wouldn't invest, please do not invest in the what I call the old communist block buildings, because as in other countries, the locals don't really want to live there. It's not a place where they would choose to live. So maybe perhaps buy a resale apartment if you can in the old town, in the center, one bedroom if you want to go for long-term yields. And it's a lot cheaper than buying a new build where you have to pay the 21% VAT. Anyway, that's it for today. Please let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, please do click the like button, because it does help this video get out to other people on YouTube. And if you like my channel, please do subscribe, and I'll see you very soon on the next video. Thank you, and bye for today.